G'day, Josh here, back with some Chess Rush and playing on my brand new iPad. So you can see that my ratio of my device in my video is a little bit different. I used to be playing on a phone, I'm now playing on a tablet, which is fantastic for my content creation setup. It's a much bigger screen, so that I'm really excited about that going forward. And not only that, but we're very, very close to hitting 10k subs, which is really, really exciting as well. So if you do watch my videos but haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please go ahead and do that. This video is going to be all about the current Season 5 meta and potential nerfs and buffs that need to take place. So we're going to jump straight into the codex, and we're basically just going to go through and have a look at all of the key races, classes, and heroes that need to be addressed. And as I do this, let me know in the comments down below if there's anything that you disagree with or anything you think that I might have missed. So we're going to start off here. We've got Bangar and Ice Tusk, a couple of the key pieces of both Beasts and Warriors, given that they both are Beast Warriors, of course. Famine. Ever since she got a buff and her passive changed to dealing percentage health damage every third attack, she became one of the strongest one costs, but she's not the strongest because Joan of Arc is, in my opinion, the strongest one cost. So if we're just looking to balance everything across the board, I think Famine could use a slight reduction. Maybe even not at 1 star, maybe just at 2 and 3 star, because she's a viable piece even at 2 star in endgame builds, which is kind of crazy that a 2 star one cost can be one of the leading heroes on the DPS charts. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I wouldn't be too hassled if Famine doesn't get changed at all. I'm not hassled at all about assassins or cyborgs at the moment, or warriors for that regard. Warriors, the fact that the Oceanborn combo has reverted back to magic resist, if I can find it. There it is there. Because that's reverted back to magic resist, warriors can now compete with ability damage fairly consistently, so I'm not too hassled about warriors. I don't think that they need any changing at the moment either. It's possible that cyborgs could use maybe a little buff, but it's not like they're super underwhelming. They're a very good early game comp. If you run 2 or 4 cyborgs in the early game before you transition, that's a quite a viable comp. Goblins do seem to be incredibly strong at the moment, so I would consider perhaps reducing. It used to be 15 and 30. 2 goblins would be 15 for allies and 15 for ally goblins, and then 4 goblins would be 30 for allies and another 30 for ally goblins. I think 50 is just too much. I would actually change goblins back to 30 for all allies and an additional 30 attack speed for all ally goblins when you have 4 of them. Or maybe some middle ground. Let's go 40. Let's see what that feels like. But it's a really interesting one. Season 5 was the first time that we had cooldowns removed. So every hero that has an ability, obviously Hog Rider has a passive, but Miss Supersonic, for instance, she has an ability, this Sonic Blast here. Because they no longer have a cooldown, if you stack any hero with items, such as Marsh Lord, then they can almost always be absolutely abused. So Nightingale, very strong one-cost hero, but absolutely not broken. I wish Bargy wasn't a featured hero, to be honest. It makes running Easterns, especially 6 Easterns, really hard, as you need to have both Bargy and Wukong, I think it is, and also the Lotus Prince. 3 of your 6 featured heroes must be Easterns, which isn't great. And then there's Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc has a ridiculous amount of HP, especially at 3 star. Her ability is incredibly strong. Joan of Arc should be a 2 star hero in my personal opinion. And if she's not, then she definitely needs a nerf. She's very, very strong, especially paired up with the next broken summoner that, of course, everyone knows is Marsh Lord. But even in human builds, she's very, very, very strong, especially once you 3 star her. So I personally think that Joan of Arc needs to be made a 2 star, a 2 cost, I should say. I'm probably going to make that mistake a fair bit. I always get 2 star and 2 cost mixed up. And then also, if she's not, then she needs to be slightly nerfed. Let me know what you think of Joan of Arc down in the comments. But at the moment, she is the strongest one cost. in some regards, the fact that she's featured means not every game's going to have her, but then it also means that if you select her, you've got your own access to a private pool. So I'm not sure that the fact that she's featured offsets that at all. She just needs to be changed, that's for sure. Witch Doctor is still absolutely useless, but he's a druid, obviously, and you need 4 druids to use their combo, and one of them now has to be Guru because Night Owl is no longer a druid. And you can use him, you can buy 2 of him, upgrade him with another druid and sell him off for a crystal profit, so I don't think it's a big issue. Frost Lotus, I think she's slept on as a 1 cost. Her AoE damage is one of the best at that as a 1 cost, so she's really, really strong. And then no issues with Protostar, Lilith, Moonlight Dragon. I mean, not all of these heroes are exactly on the same balance, but none of them in my eyes are super weak or super strong. They're in the ballpark, especially in their combos. Wolf Cavalier definitely feels very, very weak at the moment. I would possibly look at increasing the number of bounces by 1, seeing what that does, so that when her ability does fire off, her bounce triggers 4, 5, or 6 times as opposed to 3, 4, or 5. That might help. Everbloom, just strong at the moment because she's a summoner, and it's definitely summoners are definitely part of the meta. Wu Jing is another one. Not really seeing a lot of play because he is an Eastern, but some hunter builds are viable. I'm not sure that I go all in on 6 hunters at the moment, and if you're only running 3 hunters, Wu Jing's probably not one of the hunters you want to run. Lancelot, very, very strong. I personally think, and we'll get to the races and classes after I've gone through the heroes, that Punisher is a little bit too strong now, but being a human Punisher, which allows him to double cast if you're running humans, he's very, very strong for a 2 cost. So I think that Punishers themselves need a little bit of a nerf, which we'll get to, and that may fix Lancelot, but otherwise he might need looking at as well. Cerberus is an awkward one. She's a demon hunter, so she's just not seeing a lot of play at the moment. I feel like her ability should be strong. It feels like it should be a strong ability, but no one's really running her, and the little experience I've had with her hasn't been super positive either, so I'm a little bit unsure as to exactly her strength at this point in time. But if you know, once again, let me know in those comments down below and we can chat about it. Then there is Marsh Lord. It is the Marsh Lord meta, the most broken hero, more broken than Kraken, yes, because Marsh Lord is a 2 cost. Kraken's a 4 cost, so if you can win off the back of a 3-star Kraken, that makes sense. But winning off the back of a 3-star 2 cost hero doesn't make a lot of sense. Also doesn't make a lot of sense when you see like 6 humans, 6 sorcerers running Marsh Lord. They're not running Warlock, they're not running Beast, they're not running Summoners, although it does help because of Joan of Arc, but they're just running it because it's Marsh Lord. They don't actually care too much about the Summoner affinity there. So Marsh Lord absolutely needs a massive nerf. I think the main reason that he's busted is because his cooldown was removed. And I believe that his mana required is only 75 or 80. We can't see it in game, unfortunately, at this point in time, the mana required. But if you have that stat, if you remember it, I think it's either 75 or 80. Should be 100 in my opinion. And I would maybe revert. I would swap back. So Everbloom and Marsh Lord had... Everbloom used to summon 1, 2, or 3, depending on her star level or her level in general. Marsh Lord now does that. So I would actually, because Marsh Lord's a beast, I would give that back to Everbloom. It's a little bit more awkward for her as an elf, but elves aren't particularly strong in the meta at the moment. So I would personally revert the swap that Marsh Lord and Everbloom had. Give Marsh Lord back just 1 Frogling each time he summons. And that might be enough of a fix, but if not, then definitely increase the mana required to cast his ability to 100 and maybe more. Maybe more. So Marsh Lord might even need more outside of that, maybe decrease the HP of the Froglings. It's crazy to me when there's a 2-star Marsh Lord on the field and a 2-star Lightbringer. If there's another summoner that gives that 10% HP buff, it even might be without another summoner. I don't actually know 100%, but they just can't. Actually, we can do this. We can do the numbers. So each Frogling, 900 HP by default at 2-star. And if we look at Lightbringer, so we're just going to look at human sorcerers. Her ability damage is 1200. So it must be with the summoner buff, but Lightbringer can't kill the pet frogs that are being summoned, which is kind of crazy. So let's scroll back to where we were. Back to Marsh Lord. There we go. So Siren, pretty strong for a 2 cost, but fine. Glutton, fine. Wukong, really wish he wasn't a featured hero, but look, there's going to have to be some heroes that are featured. I just think that making 3 Easterns featured completely destroyed Easterns as a combo. So that needs to be addressed. The other thing, just in terms of featured heroes, that needs to be addressed is there, in my opinion, and I hope you agree with this, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. They need to regularly cycle the featured heroes. And I would like to see that every fortnight. I love Chess Rush, I love the game, but at this point during each new season, about 2 to 3 weeks in, I kind of get bored because the meta just gets really stale really quick and there's nothing that mixes it up. So I think that there needs to be balance patches more regularly, and there absolutely needs to be a roster change with the featured hero set. But let me know if you agree with that in the comments down below. So Ground Smasher, Templar Knight, Void Destruction, no issues. Void Destruction is particularly weak in the current summons meta because if he targets a pet, his ability does nothing, but that's like Assassins as well. So it just is what it is. Forest Breath, fine. Stinger, she's great. Fantastic. Calamity, Horn Menace. Stalker Drone can be very, very strong. His AoE at 3-star can be really good at dealing with some of those pets, some of those summons. Then we've got Venom, underrated ability. His ability is really, really strong, especially if you can get him to 2 or 3-star and stack items on him in the right build. I wouldn't be running him in an Assassin build just because they're not super strong in the current meta unless no one is running Beast Summoners in your lobby. But can be worked into a Beast build, can be worked into a Dragon build. So very, very nice there. Demons aren't particularly strong at the moment, so I'm not... Nether Prince, not super strong, but also fine. Flamecaller, she's been one of the strongest 3-cost heroes in a long time. Lucifer probably is better than her in the right build now, but they're both incredibly strong. I don't think that either of them need a nerf. I think that Lucifer's Punisher combo needs a nerf, as I've touched on, but we'll get to that. General of War, look, he's not as nice as he used to be, but he's also a little bit cheaper to run. I feel like it's about right, to be totally honest. Humans are very strong. He gets that double cast, of course. I feel like it's about right. So let me know what you think of General of War in those comments. Night Owl, super weird not being a druid, but I get it. Makes more sense as a beast summoner in my eyes anyway. I think Night Owl is perfectly fine at the moment as well. Keep in mind that the pet summoned still not only inherits the effects of Night Owl's equipment, such as armor and attack items, but is also a warrior class as well. So if you are running other warriors and you've got Night Owl, you can make benefit of the warrior combo there. Oops, the wrong thing. Head Reaper, Berserker, both incredibly strong 4-cost at the moment because of how strong goblins are in the meta, especially 4 goblins if you get the right build. But as individual goblins, even if you're not running assassins or warriors, both very, very strong in a 2-goblin build of any sort. Lightbringer, I almost feel like we could have her cast even if she gets stunned now. She doesn't feel particularly strong in the current meta. She's not the most overwhelming sorcerer, but that being said, if she does double cast in those human builds, she can be pretty lethal. So maybe she is about right where she is. Misfortune, one of the most commonly picked up heroes because of her class and her race. Being an undead warlock is so strong in so many builds. They are still 2 of the best secondary combos to run with any build. So Misfortune, she's great. Because she's not featured, it's a shared pool. I think it's balanced enough that everyone most of the time is probably going to be grabbing her, so that's fine. Kraken, very, very strong at the moment. On the verge of being broken. A 3-star Kraken is nigh unstoppable in many, many builds. And Kraken and Shakaraka are 2 very, very, maybe 2 of the best CC or crowd control heroes at the moment, and they both share the same race and the same class. So because of that, that might need to be looked at, or maybe Kraken needs to be nerfed. I think the fact that they're both Oceanborn and both Hunters and both offer essentially board-wide crowd control is maybe a little bit of an issue that needs to be looked at, in my opinion. But yeah, if you can run Kraken, even if you're not running Oceanborn or Hunters, just as an individual unit, she's super, super useful for her utility. Dragoon is totally fine. Riders are particularly weak at the moment, especially with Wolf Cavalier not being as strong. She used to be a big part of the DPS in Rider builds. Once again, unless you're running Easterns in your featured hero set, kind of hard to get 6 of them. And Dragons can be good in the right build, but she's still a nice hero. So it's just that the current meta isn't optimized for her. Dr. Molly can be strong in the right build. I don't have any issues with her. I think she's totally fine at the moment. I know a lot of people think she's a little bit underwhelming, but I think in the right build, she's actually very, very strong. Guru, of course, Guru is Guru. Sanzang, because Easterns have been essentially hard nerfed because of so many of them being in the featured hero set, there's no issues currently with Sanzang, but if they are rotated back into the shared hero pool, I think Sanzang probably needs a little bit of a tweak. I just don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's maybe wait and see how that looks when Easterns come back in and are a viable combo again, and then we might find that in that meta, Sanzang is totally fine. And then we move on to Dimension Walker, who is the linchpin. I mean, Lucifer is super strong in Punishers, but Dimension Walker in a 4 Punisher build does ridiculous amounts of DPS, like absolutely crazy amounts of DPS. So I think that would be fine if the Punisher combo got reverted back to what it was, and I'll talk about that. So let's leave Dimension Walker with where he is at the moment. Oh, Michael had an A. It's now Michaela. There we go. I don't think that was the case when Season 5 first dropped. But she's very, very strong in the right build. I've had her as a 3-star, bringing my 3-star Marsh Lord back to life at 100 HP. So in the right build, she's fantastic. I just think that Angels, and maybe the way she casts at the moment, needs to be optimized, because she seems to recast her blessing on the same hero she's already cast on, which obviously is not ideal because it doesn't add another angel to your lineup. Executioner, because he's a legendary, I think he needs to just always target the max value hero, and it can't be random. Sometimes randomly just get a pet. That sucks. For a legendary to sometimes, like 20% of the time, randomly target a pet for silence is just horrible, and in my opinion makes him the worst legendary. But he does do just a lot of raw attack damage if you are running a warrior build. Sword Dancer is fantastic. The Dark Mage is fantastic. Great in a sorcerer build. I don't mind that he's undead. I know Sorks don't really care about undead, but it makes him viable in other builds as a second undead as well. And if he's maxed out, he's probably the highest DPS hero in the game because of the way that his tornado works, how much damage it does, and it's guaranteed damage because it bounces from target to target. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, I love the Dark Mage. Then we have King of the Sea Shakaraka, who I've already talked about when talking about Kraken. Once again, very, very strong. I wouldn't actually nerf Shakaraka. I would nerf Kraken and maybe look at changing one of their classes perhaps. Void Doom, not as represented at the moment, but I think he's totally fine. It's just a lot of people are either running Voodoo Elder as a Goblin Warlock or Marsh Lord as their Beast Summoner Warlock, and then they're also running Misfortune as the Undead Warlock, so they won't actually run Void Doom because they don't care about the Void combo, and they've already got their 2 Warlocks, so he just doesn't fit in those builds, but he's still very strong when used correctly. And then obviously we've got Joey and the Lotus Prince, and they are both very, very strong in their respective builds as well. So I think that they're totally fine as well. So that is the overview of all of the heroes. And now we're going to work through the races on the left and the classes on the right. Elves, I'm not going to click on them because clicking on them... Oh, no, I could just do that actually. I was going to try and bring those out, but it never works the first time. It always bugs out for me. But anyway, let's do it this way. So Elves, a little bit weak at the moment. But that just might be because of how OP some other individual heroes and combos are. So I think that they're fine. Same with Cyborgs. I think Cyborgs are fine. I would like to see Beasts. I would like to see 4 Beasts reduced a little bit. I think 10% is too much. I think 5% is too little. Maybe 7 or 8% somewhere in the middle and see what that does. But a big part of it just might be because of how easy it is to abuse Marsh Lord. So maybe it's fine at 10%. Marsh Lord is definitely the biggest issue there. Then we've got Humans. I think they're currently quite strong, but I think they're currently fine. They definitely have ways to counter them, so that's no problems. Undead, fantastic. Demon, not super strong, but maybe the right comp just hasn't been found for them yet. But I think, once again, they're fine. Eastern, we've already talked about. You can't have 3 Easterns when there's only 6. You can't have 3 of them in the featured hero set when you need all 6 to pull off the full combo. So that definitely needs to be looked at. Goblins, we talked about reducing the 4 goblins from 50% to maybe back to 30 or somewhere in between, like 40%. I'm so glad that Oceanborns have been reverted. They're fantastic. It's just that individually Kraken is very, very strong, and I would maybe switch up the class of either Kraken or Shark so they're not both hunters. Void, they don't necessarily work super well together, and it's a bit of a random ability, so I probably think that the Void combo could be reworked in its entirety. It just is what it is at the moment. Dragons, I think they're okay. I have seen some specific types of dragon builds winning, so I think that they can win. They're in a decent place. Angels, I talked about. 6 of them for the full comp, but the way that Michael's targeting works isn't super optimized, so they definitely need to be addressed. And Jelly, of course. Warriors, totally fine at the moment. Slamers, Sorks, they can be strong, but they can be countered with that magic resistance from Oceanborn. So I think Sorcerers are totally fine as a class. Hunters, they're decent at the moment in the right build, primarily due to how strong Famine is, and how strong Kraken is, and the fact that Kraken and Shark are both Hunters and Oceanborns. Assassins a little bit weak in the current Summoner meta, as I've discussed, but maybe fixing Marsh Lord means that they're a little bit more viable because they can be good counters to certain builds. Rider, definitely a little bit weak at the moment, and it might just be on the back of Wolf Cavalier. I think if Wolf Cavalier was improved slightly, that maybe even just 4 riders would become semi-viable again because they do offer that magic resistance, of course. Summoner, we've talked about that. The best 1 cost in the game, the best 2 cost in the game, and a couple of epics. So they're really ridiculously strong, and Joan of Arc and Marsh Lord need to be individually nerfed, and that might fix them. You can see 10, 15, and 25%, but maybe just reducing the 6 to 20%. But I think it's actually fine having 6 to 25 because I don't know that all 6 of them in a build are super strong. You very rarely see people running more than 4, and sometimes just 2 in Joan of Arc and Marsh Lord. Then we've got Warlock, totally fine at the moment as a secondary combo. Not a problem to me. Obviously, it's a very strong secondary combo, but that's fine. There's going to be some that are strong, some that are weak. Then we get to Punisher. One of the strongest individual combos in the game when you have 4 of them. If we click on that again. You obviously have 5 to choose from if you have Lotus Prince in your featured hero set, but even if you don't, it's a 1, 2, a 3, and a 4 cost, so you're definitely going to find all 4 in the game. And it used to be that they would have a chance to double strike. Now it's a triple strike, a 45 or a 75% chance to triple strike their auto attacks, which is incredibly strong. I personally think with the strength of Lancelot, with the strength of Lucifer, and with the strength of Dimension Walker, you need to revert Punishers back to 2 times. And maybe it could even be like a 45% chance to strike twice and a 15% chance to strike 3 times. Maybe there's like some sort of balance made there. Gets a little bit convoluted, I know, but they definitely need a nerf, in my opinion. They're very, very strong. That's why you see many, many full builds running 4 Punishers. Druids, it's a little bit hard to get the 3-star ability happening now, given that you require Guru. So maybe there can be something done there, but Druids and Owls aren't particularly strong at the moment, so Druids are just what they are. Maybe individually Evergreen could get a little bit of a buff, maybe Witch Doctor as well. And then we move on to Protectors. Bar Jesus, a featured hero, of course. Protostar being Void and Ground Smasher being Cyborg mean that they're not super strong. And then obviously there is also the fact that it's still a 2 and 4 combo when there's only 3 of them in the game now that War Machine has been removed. So it's really hard to comment on the balance of that because it's not accurate. It's definitely bugged and that needs to be fixed. But that is essentially my thoughts on where the meta is at. Punishers, Marsh Lords, Sorcerers, Goblin Hunters, they seem to be the top end builds, just generally speaking. But the game does seem to be a little bit stale at the moment. I really, really hope that there is a balance patch in the works that's going to drop very, very soon. And I really, really hope that featured heroes cycle on a 2-week basis at least, if not even quicker. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I know this has been a slightly longer video, but we needed to go through most of that stuff in a bit of detail to talk about it accurately. Thank you so much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps my channel grow. I want to continue growing because I love bringing this content to the community. And until next time, I'll see you later.